Detours family, welcome to another episode. You know the drill. I'm here with my beautiful wife, Deb.
Hi, guys.
And here today we are talking about the detour that you can take in your career. So you can have all sorts of plans going down a career path, and all of a sudden either God jolts you over or you want to change. Something can happen one way or another, and it doesn't always go to plan.
No, it doesn't. Sometimes it's better than planned, but
That's it. Sometimes it's
Yep.
better, but a lot of times it's really tricky. What is it? The top two reasons why people divorce is sex and money, and
Yep.
career changes can definitely impact money. So it's a
Yeah, for sure.
very real thing. So, we kind of want to talk about, you and I had both different career changes. You went from fitness to NASA. Yes, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yes.
I went from Illinois to Florida. So different perspectives at looking at career changes. One was location. The other was totally different industries that had nothing to do with one another. So I think yours is the one that everyone's going to have questions because now you're at NASA.
Oh, boy. It sounds more glamorous than it is.
Well, it's still NASA. It's just because my dad is more excited that you work at NASA than you are.
Thrilled. I mean, he knows all the flight schedules and, everything. And I'm like, wow, Dad, I'm excited for you that you watched that launch at 2 o'clock in the morning on TV.
Yeah, he gets up and watches it all, and yeah,
I'm there on property and a launch is going off and people are running out to see it. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I've seen a few. I mean, there are times where I'll go out and go, oh, that's nice, but I'm not.
I didn't mess up my game of solitaire.
I don't play solitaire at work in case any employees are listening.
No, none of us do. None of us do.
No.
But no, in all seriousness, you had quite the career change. So you were in fitness for how many years?
Over 20.
Was that kind of what you did? I won't say right out of high school, but shortly after, as you got into fitness?
No, I went from stockbroking, day trading to fitness, which is even crazier of a jump.
So how old were you when you got into fitness as a career?
Oh, I would think probably in my later 20s. I had decided that the brokerage industry was filled with snakes. Had I married two of them and just it wasn't for me. And it was very fast paced and I didn't feel it was I was stuck behind a desk, which drove me crazy. And as an extrovert, I needed more social interaction than what I was doing.
Gotcha.
So,
And so you choose to become a fitness instructor.
yes, I don't know why I chose that. Partly because I had already loved fitness and it looked like fun. And you know me, I'm fun motivated.
Yes.
I didn't know that back then, but now looking back at my younger self, I was very fun motivated. And being in an office with a bunch of suits was not fun for me. So I was already in the fitness industry. I adored working out. It probably led to some of my like, hey, I need to be fit to be seen, which is the unhealthy aspect of it. But I thought it was a fun transition. So I went in that direction.
And so you did it for 15 years?
No, more than 20.
More than 20 years?
Yep. And I taught classes, fitness classes. I did some personal training. I did management of gyms where I had a staff of 30. Um, I did a little bit of sales. That wasn't my favorite part. That's why I built the sales team so I wouldn't have to do sales.
Gotcha.
And I just felt like there was a way to connect with people. I think people don't understand how a trainer can act like I'm like the good version of a bartender, like people come and bring their personal life as you're working out with them. And little did I know it was an opportunity for me to minister to them. I mean, I was unsaved, so I didn't understand what does it mean to minister, but it was deeply connected with people and I love that part of it.
Okay. And so at what point Does God tell you, Deb, I want you to change careers? Do you
No, there's
just go, hey, I want to get out of fitness? What's the turning point?
The turning point was, I was single again after being married, and it was one of those things where single long enough to realize, oh, I might be doing this for good. There may not be a second income coming in. Fitness has a longevity to it. As you get older, you're not as capable. I was doing 25 classes a week, so I was doing 5 a day, 5 days a week, 3 in the morning, 2 at night. Your body can only do that for so long. So it's starting to hit like, that age where I need to consider if I'm going to be the sole income for my life. And fitness was you work, you get paid. You don't work, you don't get paid. It's just the way it goes. Unless you're in management. And I had not enjoyed that as much as I thought I would. It's about babysitting, honestly.
Sure.
So I was like, well, what am I going to do that's going to, as a single woman, am I going to do to support myself for the long term? What does that look like? I didn't want to go back to college. I did not want to do that. For every fiber of my being was like, I don't want to go into debt to change careers. And I didn't want to take a bunch of classes that meant nothing to me. So I started to map out what it would look like to find a career without a traditional college degree.
And are you intimidated by the thought of leaving fitness, something you've done for 20 years? You know it, you're good at it, trying to find something else and you don't even know what it is?
Yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking. It felt more like a necessity than it did a desire of mine. It was more out of like, I need to be wise here.
Okay.
So it wasn't like, ooh, I can't wait to get out of fitness and try something new. I would stay in fitness to this day full time if it paid. And COVID showed me that God pulled me out of fitness just in time.
Yeah.
Every gym shut down. So it was perfect timing.
Yeah.
I left 6 months prior to COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. You left in the summer and
Yep.
COVID hit, started hitting in January, February of
Yep.
2020.
That was God's divine protection.
So what is the process of trying to figure out what the next phase is? So you're leaving, you've got it, you're bringing
Methodical about it, yeah.
knowing you, I'm not surprised. Yes.
I'm a list maker.
Yeah.
So I made a list of every possible career that didn't require traditional education. I didn't have to do 4 years of college. So I had everything on that list you could possibly imagine, just so that I can say I exhausted all of my efforts. Things that I even didn't know if I was remotely intrigued by, but it wasn't about I want to do something fun and different. I need money. So I made a list. I had physical therapist on there. I mean, that seemed like a great transition from fitness. That was the very top one. Um, Dental hygienist. I don't know why gross things kind of are intriguing to me. So cleaning people's teeth kind of, I know it sounds weird, but was kind of intriguing. I had postal worker. I don't know. I had a couple
Well,
other things. Yeah. And then on the very bottom of the list, just kind of almost in pencil, just because I always thought it was cool, was firefighter. But I didn't take that seriously at all. I was like, that's never going to happen, but I'll put it on the list because I want to do my due diligence and say I've listed everything. So I'm going through this list and I'm trying to find people in that career that I could talk to. And I thought that was people love to talk about themselves, right? So why don't I find people in this industry and offer to take them out to lunch and just have them talk?
so where is God in all of this?
Oh, I've been praying through, like, God, I don't know what to do next. I don't feel like you're closing the door on fitness, but you know my financial needs. So I'm praying, Lord, I don't hear you saying yes or no. I don't hear you really saying anything. So what I'm going to do, Lord, with your blessing is I'm going to take a step out in faith in this direction. And if you don't want me to do something, will you please close the door for me and make it so clear because I may not get this. I'm a little stubborn, Lord. You know me, right? And police officer was on there, actually. That's the one he closed very hard and very fast, which I am so, so grateful for.
Yeah, considering everything that's happened the last 5 years.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And not only did I want to be a police officer, I thought it would be easier to be a resource officer in a school because they never see any crime. Yeah, and then all the school shootings. Could you
Now, Broward County, you have to have clear backpacks because you had to see what the kids eat. Yeah, it's a mess.
school shootings are rampant, right? But that one's going to be great. So, yeah, God was in it as I didn't necessarily hear his voice, but I was presenting it to the throne of grace like, Lord, you may not have a direct path for me. You may give me the liberty of choosing that path, but I don't want to choose the wrong path. Help
Sure.
me. And so that's how I kind of approached it. And I went on a few I actually, the police thing, I kind of followed through pretty far, actually. I had gotten all the pre-tests completed. I had done a bunch of drive-alongs with police officers I knew. That was kind of a rude awakening. Um, I I actually did one in the middle of the night with a friend that I knew from church. Her husband was a police officer, and he got permission for me to be on the ride along. I saw a lot of things, and I was like, I wonder. I was kind of not sure if I could do it, but nothing was really definitive in my mind that God was saying no. And then my son was into poetry. Anthony was totally into poetry at that time. Still is a really great poet. Giving him a little plug. And he's like, "Hey, why don't you come to this poetry slam we're doing? It's a bunch of kids from school, and I'd love for you to just hang out and watch me do some poetry." I was like, "Oh, okay.
Nice. Yeah. Invitation from the kiddo. Why not?
Can't beat that." That was the door that closed. I I went into that poetry slam absolutely convinced that I was going to be a cop. I thought it would be a great career path. I didn't have to go back to traditional school. I was willing to do the grunt work. I wasn't married at the time, so I didn't have to worry about anyone else's schedule. I was like, yeah, this is it. I was so convinced. I was so convinced. I went into the poetry slam, and there's kids probably around 17 to 23, and they were spewing the most vile things about authority, about police, about anyone with a position of power. They were crying about victimhood. They were talking about violence. They were pitching violence, and they were angry. And I sat there, and the first thing that hit me was, these are the viewpoints of the next generation. This is what you're up against. And there was something inside me, and it was got to be the Holy Spirit. I mean, like a light switch turned off. By the time I walked out of those doors, I could not be more convinced there is no way on God's green earth that he wants me to be a cop. Like, light switch off. And as soon as I got out of there, I praised the Lord. I said, "Thank you, God. I asked you to be clear and concise with me because I don't always get it. And it could not be more clear that this is not the path you want for me." And I praised him and praised him.
Good.
Yeah.
And so, kind of moving along the lines to keep the story going, you for a little while, you going around investigating all these careers. It's on your list. Um, what leads you to starts leading you down the path of fire
Yeah.
inspector?
I had interviewed a bunch of other things, and it just didn't seem right. And I had that little penciled in at the end of my list, and I showed it to a friend. And I happened to say, "Well, I don't know about the fire thing. That's probably ridiculous." And she looked at me with a deadpan. She goes, "Why? Why is that ridiculous?" And for just a moment in time, somebody believed that I could do something that I thought was ridiculous, but they're looking at me going, "Why?" And it almost gave me a permission that I didn't know I had. And I thought to myself, "I don't know." She's like, "Well, unless you can come up with a good answer, you need to investigate that just as diligently as everything else." And she looked at me like, "You're not going to get out of this free of charge. Like, it's on your list. Why do you think you're not capable?" And so I don't know. It was like an aha moment. Then I started the process with some other firefighters and realized I don't know that I'm physically strong enough to pull out someone in a fire your size, right? Am I
Sure.
capable of doing that? Probably not. Do I want to stay in a firehouse with all men? No, I didn't want to do that. But I happened to be working in an environment where there was a fire inspector that came through, annually. And she was a woman. And I'm like, I never seen a woman fire inspector before. So I took her to lunch. And she was so enthusiastic about her job. She loved it. She gave me all the reasons why she loved it. She gave me the pros and the cons. And then she slid across the table all the classes I would need to take. And she said, we're looking for another inspector. It was when the Hard Rock was building their beautiful guitar hotel.
Sure.
And she gave me the name of the chief. I talked with that fire chief, and he was like, absolutely. Take these classes. They won't take you that long to get through if you do them one after another. And then come back to me. Let's talk. I think I might have a position for you. And I was just like, wow, okay, Lord, this seems like an open door. Prayed through it. Didn't feel like there was a no from the Lord. And I said, okay, I'm going to step out in faith, Lord. I'm going to take these classes.
And how many classes are we talking about here? Half a dozen?
Yeah.
Okay. And a class is what? A weekend? A class is
Well, when I
weeks?
took them through the college, they're a regular semester long. And then I realized that I didn't have to take them through the college, a traditional like Broward College. I could take them at the fire college and they would be a lot shorter.
Okay.
So,
Longer days, shorter time frame.
yeah, you'd stay on property and you'd take them and you would get all your requirements. And you had to do the same amount of work, just in a very condensed amount of time.
So we're talking like a week per class?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So more or less 6 weeks. Roughly 6 classes would correlate with
Yes,
6
it
weeks.
took me longer than that because I took several classes in a traditional setting, but yes, roughly.
Yeah. And you didn't have 6 weeks of vacation to spend. You had to build that up. So, okay. So,
So I finally take all the classes. I sit for the exam. I pass the exam. I go back to the fire chief that said he had a job for me and he's no longer working there.
oof.
Yeah, oof is right. I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on?
Did you know his replacement at all?
Yeah, I didn't. He didn't seem at all impressed with meeting me. Was not like, yeah, we need more inspectors. Nothing. And I cried out so hard. I'm like, God, I don't know. Did I do the wrong thing? I felt like you gave me open doors along the way. I don't know what I'm doing. Is this like, what was this all for? Because in Broward County, and this is something that the listeners need to know, is this was all my eggs in one basket. Because in Broward County, Florida, it's the only county in Florida where you have to be a firefighter in order to be a fire inspector.
Sure. And you didn't want to, you already said you don't want to be a firefighter.
Right. I already decided that. So it would mean I'd have to move out of state. I'd have to move somewhere else in the state. And at that point, that wasn't an option. Like I wasn't thinking that far ahead.
And for the listeners, the reason you did what you did is Hard Rock, the Seminoles, they have their own.
Yeah, they're a sovereign nation, so they had their
Yeah.
own police department and own fire department.
So that's what you meant when you said eggs in one basket, is they are the only people in Broward County that could hire you.
Yes.
So,
Plus, I had worked for them for 6 years. They knew my track record. They knew my work ethic. I thought I was a shoo-in. And I cried to the Lord. I was like, I don't understand. Did I hear you wrong?
did you feel like the door was shut on you?
Yes. Yes.
And what questions did you have for God when
Did I hear you wrong?
would you ask that? Because you really kind of said you didn't hear from God.
Not did I hear you wrong, but did I perceive the open doors incorrectly? Were those from you?
Okay.
Um, why, if the door was going to be closed, why did you have me walk through this? Was it just to see if I can have the confidence to go back to school and try something new? Like that was one of the things like, okay, maybe this is just a lesson in I can do hard things. maybe that's what this is all about. Maybe you never wanted this from me, but you wanted to show me I could do this. And to be perfectly honest with you, I was like, I was really devastated, more so than I probably someone else might have been.
So what yeah, I mean, how does the audience relate to all of this? Like for me, you know, I relocated from Illinois to Florida. I had no desire to go to Florida per se, but when the opportunity came up, the door swung wide open. I was working as a sales guy for a pet company. We were basically a brokerage in the pet industry. God shut that door. Lost my job there. Turned around, was unemployed, and my dad was founding a company that was launching in 3 separate markets, and Florida was one of those markets. Fort Lauderdale was one of those markets, and we had always vacationed in Fort Lauderdale because I loved to go deep sea fishing.
Yeah,
And
great place to do it.
yeah, and I love Chicago. I had no desire, I guess you would say, to leave Chicago. I will always be Chicago at heart. But I had been there and done that. I'd been there for 25 years. So when the opportunity to move to my favorite vacation destination became available, I was like, well, yeah, let me go. So, and I wasn't saved at the time. So for me, picking up and leaving, there were some battles that I had to fight. I had to convince my dad told me, no, I'm not going to hire you. So I had to go around my dad.
You went over his head?
I did actually. I went to the president of the company and said, "Hey, look, you need to hire me. I don't care what my dad says." Um,
Wow.
but for me, I didn't hesitate and I didn't look back. You had some look back moments going, did I make a mistake here?
Right.
You had all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So God, yeah. What did you do to combat the doubt? Right? Because you're 40. Let's say you're 40 years old for the sake of argument. You're making a massive career change. There's got to be doubt all
Well, of
over the place,
course.
right?
Of course. It was massive. And I had I had a mentor. I think we talked about it a couple episodes ago. I had a mentor and I was like, "Hey, do you think that I heard God wrong?" And I had someone to like kind of verbally process with my fears, my doubts, what's next. And basically it was to I was really I think I was really pissy actually, which tends to be my pattern. I don't mean to be, and I know that God is patient with me, but I was mad. I was mad. I was mad at myself. I was mad at God. I was mad at the time it took me to do this, and I just didn't understand, like, everything looked like all the ducks were in a row, and this is the direction I was heading, and it wasn't, and that was devastating, so I cried. I cried hard for about a week. I was inconsolable, didn't talk to anyone, didn't go out, and for an extrovert, that's a big deal. For an introvert, that sounds like, "Oh, you didn't go out for a week? No big deal," but for me, I was just like I turned off my phone, my TV, I did nothing but whine and cry for a week. And then at the end of that week, I was like, "Okay, I'm done. I'm done crying. I guess, Lord, that this was just to show me I can do it." And I'm really proud of myself for taking a step out and doing something hard. It's okay. It's okay. I'm done being mad about the job. If I wasn't supposed to have it, I wasn't supposed to have it. No big deal. And I meant it. I didn't just say it to God, I meant it. I surrendered it over completely after I had cried about it. And a week and a half later, I get a call from a girl that I went to fire college with, Megan, who I still work with to this day. And she said, "Hey, I just got a job over at NASA, and one of the ladies will be retiring in a few weeks. Would you have any interest?" And I was like, yeah,
I would, as a matter of fact.
yeah,
I just didn't get the job I thought I was going to get.
yeah. And so I interviewed for that job. My boss was a Christian, and I was like, wow, I can't believe it. Like a Christian, not someone that just said they were a Christian. I saw the neighborhood that he lived in. I saw the neighborhood that my friend Megan was gonna live in, and I was like, "Well, that's not gonna work, but let me explore this area." I went to church to see if there was a place I could worship, and I found a Calvary chapel, and I was like, "Wow, this is great." Um, and from that point forward, it was just like, "Okay, let me do the next step, which is to have a good interview." And it was a great interview, and that's how I wound up there.
So, what does the process look like? Were you interviewing for other jobs because you wanted a career change? So, were you entertaining other
I did. I
things?
actually looked out of state. I looked out of state in Tennessee because, again, I didn't need to be a firefighter for that. I needed to just have my inspection certification, and I did. And I went and visited family in Tennessee and interviewed there. And I also interviewed for a fitness manager at a kind of like a YMCA type of environment, which I was more than qualified for. Had really great interviews there, and they were like, "Why do you wanna move to Tennessee from Florida?" Like, they were fascinated by this Florida girl that wanted to live in Podunk, Tennessee, and I was just, "I hate Florida." At the time, I did, but, um, they didn't respond right away. They didn't respond right away at all. As a matter of fact, that job came in right when I got the offer for, NASA. And obviously, NASA was the right choice because it's NASA. Once you have that on your
Sure, of
resume, you can
course.
go anywhere. But I was drawn back to the comfortability of fitness. I knew it. I knew it well. I was great at it. I enjoyed it. It was part of like my life. And it's funny how those things happen right when you're about to make a detour, you know? The past will call you back and go, but you know this road. This one's familiar. This
Sure.
one's comfortable. Going down an uncomfortable path and taking that detour is hard. I had to learn a whole new language in a sense, you know? I had to learn how to do a database I had to learn how to look up codes efficiently. I had to learn an environment of hazmat and rocket ships and none of that was easy.
Well, and being a fire inspector for NASA is totally different than being a fire inspector for the city.
Oh,
Where you go into the city, you have well, you have some authority, right? But you're also just checking such basic things like, are the fire extinguishers up to code? Do the exit signs illuminate? Basic things, where at NASA, they're dealing with C4. You're literally inspecting the crawler. You're going to launch pads where they're literally going to light fire,
yes, it's much more
shoot
intimidating.
things to the moon. You're inspecting that. So it's a much, you went from 0 to 60 is an understatement,
Yep.
right? It wasn't just a career change. And it's, talk about God opening a door, NASA hiring someone that has no experience
No.
to go and inspect Elon Musk's rockets.
Well, I don't expect his, but
Okay, but Jeff Bezos, you're inspecting rockets and launch pads, and so that was God clearly opening a door.
clearly, clearly.
So, but talk to me, because I think the relatability. So many Christians, I think, feel shame when it comes to, I shouldn't have doubt, but I do.
Mm,
In life, and that can be anything. We're using career as the example in this episode, but I shouldn't have doubt, but I do.
right.
I shouldn't be intimidated, but I am. So many people wrestle with that. Like, did you wrestle with that
Of course.
when you did? What happened? Did you just have to put on your big girl pants and go, I'm gonna be uncomfortable. I'm okay with being uncomfortable. Did God speak to you? What kind of happened?
Mm. I felt like, what kind of Christian doubts this much? And that's where the shame and guilt come in. And shame and guilt, I've been well trained in shame and guilt. So those familiar messages started coming back. And I did a lot of writing at the time. Like, okay, Lord, I don't know what to say other than I'm confused. I'm weary. I'm not sure if I'm even doing the right thing. But at some point, it was all that was happening prior to the real surrender. And I think God had to get me to that real surrender because I was holding on to that like it was like I was entitled to it. And I wasn't entitled to anything. God was going to give it to me if he wanted me to have it. And I didn't quite understand that. I was holding on to something that I thought I wanted because I'm entitled. I did all this hard work. What do you mean it's a no? And God had to change my attitude about my entitlement and my expectations that just because I pray it and it seems to be going in that direction, that it's going to go the way I want it. I'm not God. He is. And I did take counsel with a few people and I cried. Like, it was a grieving. I know it sounds silly because it's just a job, but it was my whole life. It was my career. It was, I have to fend for myself as a single woman once again. Now I'm in my 40s. I'm single again. And I have to, I have to make sure that if I stay single the rest of my life, I can survive on one income. So it wasn't just a job that I was lamenting. It was a future that I felt like I was lamenting, the what ifs and what could be. And I took that seriously. So I had people in my life that were so faithful to let me cry, didn't just shame me, didn't go, it's okay to have doubt. That's normal. So and then we go back a couple episodes where we talk about having community and having, spiritual mentors and people that you look up to. Those are the people I went to and said, I'm so confused.
Yeah, and so many times, we all make the mistake of putting hope in a person rather than Jesus. In your case, you were promised a job by somebody that, was claiming to hire, be about ready to hire for that position, and got your hopes up that there was going to be an opportunity there. You knew the Seminole Indian tribe. You knew everything that was going on over there. You knew the people.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say a promise was made to you, but you're certainly your hopes. You put your eggs in one basket, as you said.
I did.
And lo and behold, the reminder that no, the hope needs to be in Jesus. That He's going to open the true door for you. And I think it has been an absolute blessing.
And I think that one door opened to a whole new chapter of my life.
Completely.
Yeah. That's how you and I got back together. And that's how Anthony and Becca, finally moved to Florida, because Anthony was never going to move back to South Florida. That's for sure. But the fact that I was in another part of Florida that wasn't like his, childhood environment, he was more intrigued. I was somewhere different, but I was still in a place that was familiar. Florida was still familiar. Bringing my parents here, everything changed when I moved to this side of Florida.
Yeah, and that so many times when you're going through those trials and those tests, it can be difficult and you can be filled with doubt and so on and so forth. But as you continue to honor God, He honors you. And so many times it's just a floodgate of blessing when you make it through the test and the trial and you pass.
Yes.
And I mean, when I mean floodgate, I mean within a year, you had a new job, a new house. You and I had gotten married.
Yes.
We had been reunited and gotten married. I mean, we're not talking little things here.
Massive.
Finding a husband, finding a spouse, that's a tremendous blessing.
You were such a blessing.
Hopefully.
You are.
But getting a house, getting a career that you love, working for a Christian.
Yeah.
Knowing people like Megan, you weren't coming to an area where you didn't know anything.
I already had a friend in the area.
When you moved up here, Mom and Dad were still close enough. They were only 2.5 hours away that you absolutely could go see them over a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It was enough of a move, but there were just tremendous blessings in that season. And that's so often that's how God works. So when we're being tested by God, it's because He wants to bless us.
Yeah, I believe that. Doesn't mean the testing is not hard.
Oh no,
hard.
No, I mean we just the sermon for today's teaching that you and I sat through was, I think, what, Genesis 39 we were in, and
Joseph's
Joseph,
story.
yeah, being sold to Potiphar, but just his whole story and how many years that trial went on just to receive the blessing on the other side. But I mean, how many years, how many doubts, how intimate was his relationship created with God in that
Mhm.
trial and in that waiting. And
Yeah.
I think, careers, they can be interesting trials because it does impact how much money you make. That's what was, what hard for me. I had a season in my life working for Accenture. Accenture's an agency, and just the inconsistency of work made
Mhm.
life difficult. I couldn't plan for things because I didn't know whether or not I was going to be getting paid. I didn't know, when contracts ran out, so on
Yeah.
and so forth. If contract ran
Very
out,
unstable.
yeah, it was amazing. I loved my time there, but the downfall was the pay was
Mhm.
inconsistent. When I was working, the pay was excellent, but it was this constant level of stress that I lived in, and I'm sure
Yeah.
you had some level of stress when you were going through all of the careers. Just have that ability to just beeline it for our stress. And
Yeah, I mean, it's the foundation of how we pay our bills, and without it, life can be really hard when you don't have the money to pay for the basic things. Career becomes a very big thing. Very, very big thing. And I know that people wrap a lot of their worth and identity around their careers, which is not biblical, but we do it anyway because it's kind of how the culture is has schooled us, to be what am I going to like I remember people saying, "Ah, you're just a fitness instructor." And that would irk me immensely. I think we need to look at what God is schooling us for in all careers, even the ones that other people find small. When I think about what fitness did for me is it put me in front of large groups of people, right? When you're teaching group exercise, I mean, I had classes that were as small as 5 and as big as 100, just depending on where I was teaching it. And I had to articulate, I had to communicate, I had to teach to different learning styles, the visual learner, the auditory learner, the tactile learner. I had to do that. It trained me to do that. It trained me to be on, for lack of a better way, even when life was hard. I had to be the motivator. I had to be the one that got up there and made you feel like your fitness meant something. It was more than just fitting into a pair of jeans. It was your life. It was, how are you going to feel when you're an older person? Like I had to sales pitch, in a sense, this is more than just looking good in a mirror. This is about your lifestyle. And I had to do that whether I was sad or angry or lonely. I had to do that. So, small jobs, even though they look small and insignificant to other people, God is using that as a training ground for you.
it's so true, because now I look at what you just said through the lens of you facilitating for Trees of Hope. There were so many evenings where you had ladies come into the house, and you had a bad day at work or this, that, and the other, but you had to put on your big girl pants,
Right.
and you had to motivate someone to walk through healing of something so traumatic.
Right.
They needed you to be at the top of your game to help guide them through that healing. The prevention workshops that you do,
Hmm.
you've got to get up there and talk about hard things, topics that people
Avoid.
will crawl under a desk rather than listen to. And it's amazing how, God uses that. I played the piano for 13 years, and I performed in front of people all the time. And
Mhm.
so public speaking or being up on a stage, it doesn't bother me in the least. I started playing piano when I was 4 years old. So I would
Cool.
be in front of people doing recitals at 4 years old. So to me, I just grew up with it. And little did I know that at 4 years old, God was already training me
Hmm.
to be up in front of people. And I literally, I mean, everybody gets few butterflies, but so what? It doesn't bother me in the least to get up in front of
I know.
1,000
I've
people.
watched you. It's pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
So it's amazing what God is prepping you for.
It's always a training ground for something.
So why do you feel, or have you ever thought about it? You did mention that kind of the minute you gave it up to God, that's when he kicked in and you got the phone call for NASA. I think so many times that's such a critical point is when we let go because we realize we can't do this.
Right.
It does have to come as a gift from God, and he does know better. But unpack that for me. What was going through your head? Were you mad at God? Were you scrambling trying to figure out what plan B was? What did all of that look like?
Yes and yes. I was mad. I mean, I wish I can tell you that I was this mature, wise Christian that, never gets mad at God, but it was definitely not my story. Yeah, I felt like I went through some anger. Like, why? The why was more than just a humble, I want to know. It was almost like an accusatory, like, why did you make me do this? And then there was the why am I what's next? Yeah, the plan B. Like, what do I do now? I put all this stock into one thing. What do I do now? And the desire to control the outcome. I mean, we all have that. Some more than others. And it was when I realized no matter what I do, I really can't control the outcome. I can only control how I behave in whatever comes my way. And I wasn't behaving the way I wasn't proud of my behavior. Wasn't proud of being cranky with God. Like, I know that he is merciful and he can handle it, but that doesn't mean I want to be there. Doesn't mean I was pretty embarrassed that I couldn't get out of bed for a week. I was embarrassed. I was mortified that I was that upset and I didn't know how to cope. And I think when you hit what feels like, I'm not saying that was a rock bottom, but it felt very final to me that I had to be okay with whatever direction he did head me in because he knows better than I know. That doesn't mean I was happy about it, but I also knew that he's good. And if this didn't work out, then maybe I just learned something along the way. I learned that I could do something hard, regardless of what other people said, because there's always the naysayers, especially when it came to fire. It was like, I told my parents, and they were like, what? You're going to do
Oh,
what?
I couldn't imagine
I don't
the
understand.
you couldn't even go to your parents for advice on something like
No, I
that.
don't go to them for any kind of advice. Even I learned that very young in life, but they obviously want to know what's happening in my life. I would have
They do
family
want what's
dinner.
best for you.
No, they do. But they just, they're naysayers no matter what you bring them. So the perplexity on their face when I told them I was going to, pursue a career in the fire department, they were just like, it didn't register. Just,
Did Dad keep his deadpan face, or did he actually emote?
he, I don't remember. I think he was like, he didn't quite give me the look of disgust, but he looked at me
You?
what are you doing? What are you doing? It was almost the same look I got when I told them I was 16, going to be 17, and I told them I wanted to go to ROTC, which is the pre-course for being in the military. And they run them in high schools all the time, and I wanted to be in the military. And he was just like, he had a lot to say about that. But the initial reaction was like, what? How is that? Like, nobody I could see if we had, firefighters in our, family line, cops or firefighters or something in that arena, it would make sense, but it made no sense to anybody. And I was like, "Well, this is what I'm doing. I know you don't think it's gonna work, but I just smile and I'm gonna show you wrong." So, yeah.
Yeah. That's what's hard too when you're going through a career change that family doesn't support.
Right.
Luckily, my father, when I went to Accenture, he was a huge supporter. He knew Accenture
Mhm.
very well, always supported. The move to Florida, he didn't.
Oh, really?
'Cause, yeah, it wasn't. it was more along the lines of he didn't want his son working for him.
Yeah.
It wasn't, you can't handle it. It wasn't, don't go to Florida. It wasn't, it was simply just, I don't
I
want.
don't know how this is going to affect our relationship,
Yeah.
being your boss as your dad.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know, it was definitely that. But other than that, my parents have always been pretty supportive.
your parents are incredibly supportive.
Yeah. So totally different.
I'm in awe of them.
But even it's amazing as I talk to some of my friends. I remember my dad, you know, we grew up in Chicago, and um, my dad has been connected to the music industry for many, many, many years. So he knows a lot of musicians, and he became really good friends with a guy that was a drummer for Eddie Money, as well as did some fill-in work for like Santana. He was a percussionist. And I remember sitting and talking with him, just going, what did your parents say when you said you wanted to become a full-time drummer in a rock and roll band? And he said, my parents absolutely supported it. They said, give it everything you got and don't look back.
Amazing.
And he did. And he succeeded. He performed in front of hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
And has had quite the career as a drummer. He's probably 60, 65 years old now, if I had to guess. But it's amazing when you have the support. I don't know. I asked him, I said, do you think you would have become a professional drummer if you didn't have your parents' support? And he said,
No.
I don't know about that.
Your parents can place the first seeds of doubt in you. You know what I'm saying? They can. They can.
We're some parents and spouses in that absolutely as well.
Oh, yes, for sure.
You know,
For sure.
and we're not saying you didn't, when you did your career change, you didn't throw caution to the wind. You kept your job.
Right. Oh, yeah. And I did my homework.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how many people I took out to lunch. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And it's such a great way if someone listening is looking to do a change, whether it's career or something else, is talk to the people who have gone ahead of you. They will tell you all the pros and all the cons. People love to talk about themselves. They love to share the fact that they think, wow, this person thinks I have some wisdom. Let me share everything I have and all the years of experience that I have. It's a great approach. I love it.
Yeah, and that goes for anything in life. You know, the season that we're in now with mom and dad, and to have been, I wish we could have been connected to someone that had dealt with the VA before.
Yes, that
So
would be
that
nice.
they shorten the learning curve and they get you ready for what's coming and so on and so forth. So no matter what it is, if you're looking at a transition, if you're going through a transition, like the VA for us was not a choice, but your career change was, doesn't matter. Try and find someone that's been there and done that. And it only makes it better if they're a Christian, because they can prep you about the conversations to have with God and the right attitude to have and so on and so forth. I mean, that's what this podcast is about, is, you know, you went through a crazy transition, and where was your attitude spot on? Where was it? Oh, where were you in the wrong case, you know?
Yes. Yeah, it's great to have that sounding board of somebody.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely try and find a mentor. I know that can be hard sometimes.
Yeah.
But that will shorten your learning curve and hopefully take out some of that stress.
Even if it's not necessarily a mentor, just someone you know you could talk about one specific thing with. Like, I had somebody I could talk to that had done physical therapy. They weren't necessarily a mentor, but they were in that career a long time and we were friendly. So it doesn't necessarily have to have a title of mentor, but somebody that's gone ahead of you, that's doing something you think you want to do, and you go, I think I'd like that. Let me ask them what they like about their position. Yeah, it doesn't have to be as deep as a mentor, but find somebody that is doing something you want, or you think you want to do, and just be curious. Curiosity, genuine curiosity, people always are attracted to.
I think that's the kind of almost the only credit I'll ever give to myself, is when I find someone that is better at something than I am and something I want to be good at, I'll gravitate towards that person.
Yes, I have noticed that in your life. I
You
think
know,
cool.
yeah, with friendship, mentorship doesn't matter. When I find someone, I go, oh, wow, that's that attribute that they have. I see that as a tremendous benefit in life. Let me befriend them. Let me soak up everything I can from them.
Yeah, it's a very humble attitude. The fact that you could be teachable and that you want to know more. Curiosity is humble,
Of course,
So I think that's great.
it yeah, and it's becoming a lost trait, sadly.
Mhm.
People feel that they know everything, and they can take things personally when they get things wrong.
Yeah.
It's tough out there, but yeah, if you can keep a gentle heart and constantly stay plugged into God. And one of these episodes, we were talking about it last night. We don't have the time to get into it today, but I do want to discuss the topic of, do you believe there are two camps of Christians? One where they believe that God has everything preordained for them. I'm looking for a job. God, you have a job picked out for me. I need to find what your will for me is.
Yeah, the soulmate job.
Yeah, versus as long as I stay within your will, any job out there is fair game. Or another way to look at it is, do you believe God created your spouse just for you, or do you believe as long as you walk within God's will, he's going to open the door to plenty of options for spouses and leaves the choice up to you? It's kind of one camp or the other. And a lot of people treat jobs that way. There's one job that I am supposed to have. I need to connect to God to find out which career I'm
Right.
supposed to be in, or the
There's
opposite.
some liberty.
Yeah, so I think that's a really critical episode for us to do here in the near future, because
Yeah, let's do that.
we've got to unpack it. And Christians, they can it can almost be like end times view, where they believe one side or the other is the right side.
And everybody else is wrong. There's no
Yeah,
open to interpretation.
yeah. So it's a tough one, but I do think we need to talk about that, and just because it applies to careers as well. So
Yeah, I like that. Let's
yeah,
plan
we'll
for
circle
that.
back for that one.
Mhm.
But yeah, interesting stuff, guys. If you're going through any kind of transition in life, we use career today just because, Deb could speak from personal experience, but this can be health. This can be all sorts of things where you have to make a big change. So that's really what it was all about. So thank you guys for listening
Yeah, we appreciate it.
so much. Deb, thanks for opening up and telling us about
I'm an book, right?
your move up to NASA and just that crazy season in life.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Guys, if you like our podcast, we would ask that you would subscribe and that you'd give us a review. And, if you know you'd reviews, only good ones. Yeah, leave the bad ones out. And if you know anybody that might enjoy this podcast, that you would just, by word of mouth, just say, hey, I got a great podcast for you.
So thank you guys so much for listening. We will see you again next time.
Yeah. Bye, guys.